My name is Ana Cecilia González, and it all started when I was in the operating room after there was a big situation with my lungs. They were all filled with fluids, and they really had to go into the operating room as an emergency. So after that surgery, I had come out of the surgery in a very serious condition. There was this big infection. It was all complicated, and I was intubated, but I knew that there was something wrong with the tube because I could feel it. And I tried to tell them. I had my arms tightened to the rails of my bed, and there were supposed to be two nurses with me. And one of them said, "I'm going to go see my boyfriend at McDonald's." I recall that very well. And then the other one, just a few minutes later, said, "I'll just go and get some water." And then when the moment they went out, a phlegm got stuck in the tube, so no air could come in my lungs anymore. I was breathing through this machine, and suddenly there was no air. I wanted to take the tube out to be able to breathe. I was kicking, and suddenly this tremendous noise started sounding like an ambulance inside the room. The nurse came back immediately, and then she started shouting, "Respiratory, respiratory." So everybody comes in, and they knew there was no air coming in. So I had a respiratory arrest, and just a few seconds later, a heart arrest. They didn't know that there was a problem with the tube. So the phlegm was blocking the air in. And after struggling for some seconds, probably 15, 20 seconds, I immediately felt that I came out of my body. After I came out, there was no need to turn back because at that moment I had a vision of 360 degrees. And I knew I was out of the body. I could see my body. And at the same time, I could see everything around me. So the sensation was of freedom. I was not suffering anymore. I was not struggling. I felt as healthy as ever. I was very healthy. I could see my body. All the doctors working with CPR. They were doing all this, making me come live again. And at the same time, I was looking at myself and I said, "Wait a minute, but I'm alive. I'm okay. And I saw my body. It was not moving anymore, and all the doctors were shouting and coming in, and I could hear all the noises, and at the same time I felt that I was just doing fine. So there's a little bit of confusion. Where am I? That's my body, but here I am. I just knew that that was my body, but that was not me. So in that moment, I see myself surrounded, like some people call it like a tunnel. I was going through inside this cylinder. It was like a tree. I mention it like a tree because I started seeing like a lot of branches that could extend to my eyes could see. I mean, there was no stopping for this. The different levels I was looking at, wherever my attention was, is where I could expand it. You see everything at the same time, but you just stared. Then at the same time, I could start seeing my parents. I could see my daughter. And one of the strange things was that I didn't know what my little daughter was. She's 9 months old. And suddenly I see her at my aunt's house. I didn't know she was there, but I saw her there. And I saw she was in the crib and she was okay. So I had just asked, I just want to see my daughter again. And I saw her. So I said, okay, so she's okay. I saw my parents praying a rosary. I saw my siblings. So it was like if I could see everything at the same time. And also I was in another dimension. I knew I was someplace else. So then I started floating. I just started going in this like cylinder, like tree, and then saw a lot of branches. The first branches I saw there were little animals, squirrels, rabbits, little dogs, even insects, small, everything in the nature, like all the creation. But just in the little, like in that first stage, I saw those beauty. And it was like if I was seeing them in this amazing, beautiful nature. Like that's why I call them like branches. And I could hear water, I could hear the wind, all the beauty surrounded me. It was so beautiful. It was so much, I would say that like an ecstasy of everything you would have ever imagined, the beauty. Usually, what I have seen is that there are no words to describe such an amazing beauty. So I just kept on floating. And then I saw another stage of branches, but with bigger animals. There were lions, giraffes, tigers. The colors were so bright and so perfect. I could even feel that I could touch them. I was not afraid of anything of this. It was like at that moment I felt so connected with all the nature, with all the animals, with everything. It's like we were one. I was part of them, they were part of me. And at the same time, everything else was happening. So I just saw that it was where I placed my attention is where I can. This is like, for me, this is like the human way to express what I went through. Because if you don't separate it in stages, it's impossible to say it. But everything was happening at the same time. I was aware of my body, I was aware of my child, I was aware of everything. But I'm just placing my attention to the different stages I was looking at. So I kept on floating, and then I saw another set of branches. And there's where I saw all the children running. So I saw children, and they were beautiful. The beauty of these children running, you could hear their voices, you could hear noises, and they were just happy. And at that moment, is for the first time, I felt this amazing love I had never felt before. I could feel love for all. It's like we were family. So all these children were there, and I was looking at them, and I was just feeling part of them. I kept on floating, and I saw another state. So then I saw people around my age now, and I could see the wisdom in them. All of these people coming there, just smiling at me, welcoming me. And I thought, like, well, I have not lost anybody, like my brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents. They were all living, but all of these people is like they were my family. And they were, let me just drink a little water. All of these people that greeted me, they were family for me. They were people I knew were part of me. They were all part of this beautiful family, and I felt at home. And the amazing thing was the love I felt from them to me. There was so much love. I kept on floating, and then I saw elder people. But I've come to know that they were not elder chronologically. There was a lot of wisdom in there. It's like masters. All of these masters that were in this new stage, and I could also feel their wisdom, their welcome, and I felt part of them. They were greeting me. I felt so much love with all these people welcoming me, and they were part of myself. I didn't feel separated from them. I just feel like I was back home. So while I was floating, I suddenly saw this circle on top of me. It was like a pale yellow. And I was curious, oh, what is this beautiful color? So at that moment, when I saw this beautiful light, I went in because I was just floating. So I went in this, and then I got stuck in the middle of my spiritual body. But what I felt, it was like if you open a door, and suddenly there's this bright light surrounding me. So I felt this embracement of love with this light. All of my body felt like electricity. All of it was full of love, full of this beauty of this amazing light that it blinded me. I couldn't see anything, but I felt full of love and light. I was in there, and I felt this hand on my head, and a voice, a beautiful voice that nowadays I can still recall. And it was this voice telling me, stay calm, go in peace. This is not your time, but just do everything I've told you. In that same second that I heard that voice, I started coming back through all these stages, but fast, fast, fast. I went through the elder people, to the people my age, children, all the animals, and then went back into my body. Boom, immediately went back. So I started hurting again. I felt my legs. There were nurses all around me holding my legs because I was kicking so hard just to get free. And then I hear this voice, and this is for real. Doctor saying, she's back. And then I hear my heart, ding, 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 beep, 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 beep. Oh, I heard everything. And the moment I was aware, like, okay, I was so dizzy because my body was just turning around and around because of the lack of oxygen. The first sensation I felt was that I was so angry because in my mind, in my human mind, they were waking me up. And I said, well, if I finally went to sleep, why do you want to wake me up? I didn't understand I was dying. So I was just so angry at these doctors. And the first thought that came in my mind was, these doctors are so selfish. They just want to wake me up and I want to go to sleep. So I went into a hard arrest again because I didn't want to stay. So after many years, I found out, well, not many years, 1 year later, I found out that they had really struggled with me going back and forth for so long because I didn't want to stay. I just didn't want to be in that body. I didn't know I was dying. Consciously, I didn't know I was dying. I just thought I was going into this beautiful sleep and I just wanted to go back to that place. I wanted to go back. I wanted to continue that trip, that amazing journey that I was going through. So after they struggled several times, I went to several hard arrests. And this is all written, and there's a lot of information that she went into several hard arrests. I was told that it was around an hour that I went back and forth. So there must have been probably 15 seconds and then 1 or 2 minutes, and they were just struggling with my body, trying to put me back into a rhythm, into a heart rhythm. So after I came back, and I was aware, because I tried to ask what happened, please tell me. And since I had the tube in, they just let me write. So I had this little notebook, what I wrote. So tell me, where was I? What happened? And then they said, okay, there was a problem with the tube. We had to arrange it, and then it's back in correctly. So everything's okay. But they didn't tell me what happened. But for me, it was the opportunity to have this beautiful experience. So I didn't blame anybody. I didn't go through any doctor's problem because I didn't see it like that. I just saw that this needed to happen for me to have that blockage and get that respiratory and heart arrest. So when I was there in my body again and trying to understand what had happened, I remembered that this was not the first time this has happened to me. When I was a little girl, I remember when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, because I was in the hospital for quite some time, and then I was recalling a lot of these events that had happened in my childhood. So when I was probably, I don't know, around 7 or 8 years old, I was born with a very serious heart condition. That's why I was in this surgery room. They were doing a surgery, open heart surgery, and I was in a very serious condition in the hospital. But I remember I was born with this problem, and I had several events. So when I was lying there in my bed, I recalled that I loved to swim when I was a little girl, but there was no oxygen. I had just for, if there's any doctors that would be interested about this, I had transposition of great vessels, one single ventricle, and pulmonary stenosis. So that was really against all odds that I was alive. It was not compatible with life. But I was living a very difficult life as a child. So whenever I went through many different moments of lacking air. When I went swimming, my body couldn't warm up itself that easy. So when I went out of a pool that was really cold, my body struggled so much to get warm that I remember one of the occasions that I just covered myself with a towel and lay myself in the ground that was very warm, trying to get heat again. So I remember I covered myself, lay down, and then I saw myself coming out of the body. And from my little child's eyes, I saw the pool. I saw myself lying, and that's why I remember that. And I was lying in the ground, covered with a towel, trying to recover. And I saw my father, my siblings, everybody around. And then I remember seeing my father running towards me. And then he hugged me and held me with him and embraced me because he knew I was really struggling. Well, I was very cold. And at that moment, I went back to my body. So I said, that had happened, going out of the body, but just looking at everything as a little child. So I was just trying, I was under all this, going through all of this information. So what happened? Where was I? What was this? All of this near death experience, it took me a long time to understand because I started like doing remembering my life as a child. And there were many different moments that I had gone through different things. Like I also remembered going, always having this beautiful being that I call him beautiful now. But at that time, I thought he was the ghost. He was the ghost that was taking me away. So when I was a little girl, I remember seeing this being constantly when I was in danger. When my life was threatened, I always so I didn't tell this to anybody because I thought it was going to be like everybody was going to say, well, those are imaginary friends, of course. But I remember talking to him with my mind and saying, please don't take me away. I don't want to die. I don't want to die because by the age of 8, I had already understood that I had a heart condition and that I was in a very serious health situation that I could die in any moment. So I understood perfectly well that I could die in any moment because of my heart condition. My parents had already told me this story. They had told me about my heart situation. So I knew that's why when I wrote a book and I started writing it after this near death experience, it's called When Life Is Not Forever. Because I remember when I was a little girl, I said, okay, so I'm not going to live forever. As you think that children will live forever. I mean, at age 8, you don't think about death. So you say, okay, so I'm going to live forever like everybody. But I understood it that I was not. So I named my book like that, and I started writing it exactly after this near-death experience that I just mentioned when I was at the hospital. So one of the things I also want to mention is that it took me many days to come out of the hospital because my body was in a very serious heart health condition. It was I was dying. There was this big infection in my body. They thought I was not going to make it. They talked to my parents. They talked to my husband, and I said, she's got this such a serious infection that if we don't treat her with the right antibiotic, I don't think she's going to make it. She's really struggling a lot. And I remember that, well, they talked to them, so they were all around me. That was about 2 days later. And I had already gone through this experience. So I said, okay, I had a commitment. They told me, do everything I've told you. So I knew I had something to do in this world. So for me, I knew I was going to live. But I saw everybody's faces because I was still intubated, but then there was all the doctors and they just wanted to see how much this lack of oxygen had affected me. So I remember the doctors asking me, so how are you? How are you feeling? And what I did was just put my arms like, very well. But I was intubated. I couldn't talk. But I was strong like Hulk. I'm good. And they told my husband, we think this affected her brain. I don't think she's okay now. Because I couldn't speak because I was intubated, but I felt so strong. And I was just telling everybody, I'm just fine with my arms, with whatever I could express. So I mean, they told me later that when I was doing those things, they said, I don't think she's doing okay. This must have damaged her brain. She was lacking oxygen for so long. So they just prepare them. It's most probably then the next few days she's gonna pass. There's no way she can make it. This is very difficult. So after several days in the hospital, I remember lying. They extubated me finally. My body was struggling, but I could start breathing back. So it was like sort of a hope, but I was really very in a very serious condition. So they took me to intensive care, and I in all these days I tried to recall, try to understand what I had gone through. Where was I? And then I remembered my childhood. And I was going through all of these phases while I was lying there. And visitors could come only since I was with a big infection. I couldn't have many visitors. So they came 1 hour in the morning and then 1 hour in the afternoon. I had very seldom visitors. But I remember once when my sister was there, I was very, very worried because I couldn't get out and I didn't understand what was the meaning of all what I had gone through. But at the same time, doctors called me. They said that I was one of the most patient patients they've ever had, because they came to me and said, you need to stay for some more days and I said, okay, I'll be fine, don't worry. But there was this one day where I was, and I want to tell you this because this is part of my beautiful experience, that I was lying there with my sister with me, and I was not intubated, but I had fluids. There were with IVs all around my body, tubes coming in and out of my body, trying to get some of the fluids out. And I remember that once I just looked up and started crying. And I said, God, I need your help. I just can't stand it anymore. I just want to get out of here. Please help me. This is not possible anymore. So I started begging and praying for him to heal me. So I had my eyes looking up, and suddenly I started looking at a being of light of my right and another one of my left. And my sister just looked at me. So what is she looking at? And I saw these beings coming, and they started cleaning my body. And they started cleaning my face, my arms, all my body, one on my right and another one on my left. So after they cleaned me up, I went to sleep. And I slept for 8 hours in a row. Nobody could wake me up. I was just sleeping. And my sister left. So next morning, this was many hours. I woke up again. Some nurses came and they looked at me. They talked to me. So are you okay? You've slept for so many hours? Yeah, I'm fine. So I was at peace. So I went to sleep that night. And next morning, very early in the morning, a friend called and she said, I need to talk to her. So this was the kind of, we're talking about 30, 40 years ago. So they had to bring this phone with a little cord all the way to intensive care. This friend says that she urgently needs to talk to you. I said, okay, I don't remember her. So it had been more than 20 years that I didn't see her. And she said, I need to talk to you because I had a dream last night that I need to share with you. I dreamed that two angels came to your room and they cleaned you and they healed you. So I know you're going to be all right. And I said, wait a minute, but I went through this yesterday. I was aware of this. I lived it. So if I could have had a chance, I would have jumped out of the bed and said, yes, I know, and this is true. So after this event, 5 days after, well, I was out of intensive care 2 days later, and 5 days later, I was out of the hospital. I mean, I was in such a serious condition. So this was an amazing healing I was in the hospital for 2 months. But after I was just begging, okay, I just need, please get me out of here. This has been too much. But by then I had already started writing. I was writing and writing and writing my book. So after I went this intense, after getting out of intensive care, I went into a room. I started writing my book, and I had to write about the angels, about my near-death experience, about my child. So I started writing everything. And 5 days later, I was out of the hospital. So for me, one of the lessons I really learned is that the moment I started to count all of my blessings, because in my mind, in my human mind, I said, okay, if I don't make it, I need my daughter to know about this. She's 9 months old and she will never know her mother. So I needed for her to know everything I had gone through in the hospital, all these angels, all these beings coming and healing me. Even though, as crazy as it sounded, I needed to write it down just in case I died. But what happened is that this brought health to my body, because as the way I see it is that I really started acknowledging the truth in my life. I had gone through another place. I had received the love. I was loved, and I received the message. So once I understood it and I started writing it, my body started healing it. And then these beautiful angels came. So I was ready to get out of the hospital and start talking about all of this. The lesson that I learned is that it doesn't matter how serious your condition is. Once you acknowledge all of your blessings, I wanted my daughter to know everything about me. Before I died, it's when the health came back to my body.
Stairway to Heaven, 25 near-death experiences about our encounters with God, Jesus, and paradise. Journalistic research on real cases by A.J. Parr.
I looked down, there's no body. There's no me, but I felt just like me. And my first thoughts was, wow, this must be heaven. The whole Bible, Jesus, God thing is really true. And I said, if you were praying and you talk to God, it's just like that. It's God, you need to send people back so they can tell people it's real. Send some back. They have no idea this is real.
So there was quite a bunch of activity that they were doing during this time. And so, I know they were working on me really hard, but the whole time that I was gone, I went to heaven. So as far as what I was experiencing, it was wonderful, and I was able to see God and to see Jesus.
I turned and I said to this one leader character who had come and collected me, I said, who are you? Who are you exactly? You're not the same as these, because he was not the same as the other angels. And he seemed to be the one that was emanating this incredible love more than anyone else. And he just looked at me and said, I am the one you call Lord. Now, for me, there's only one person in all of history that I call Lord, and that's Jesus. And this was Jesus that I was sitting in front of. And that really did overwhelm me at that point.
I remember feeling all this light, seeing light all around me. And I was just like, when you're in a deep state of meditation, when you go so deep that you don't see what's around you, you just become one with the light. So that's what happened to me. I became one with the light.
At that point, I was turned upward, my spirit was, and I was aiming towards the sky. And I saw a beautiful, bright white, but it isn't a white that we can describe. So it's the brightest light you could imagine here on Earth, but without being blinding.
I cannot die right now. You take me back. I have a lot to do right now. I said, no, you make a promise to me and you need to fulfill your promise. So welcome to heaven. From today, you're part of me and part of all of them. From today, you start walking with me and walking with all of them. Love is the most powerful force in the universe, and that's why I'm going to unite the whole humanity again. And then he said, okay, he put his hands around me and said, let's do a live review.
I just really became fascinated with the light and became just the joy and the love of God and just the peace of God just began to wash over me. I just began to look at my arms and, it's not a light like you just turn on. This light had like particles. It was just like moving and just covering my arms and my body.
When I was enveloped with that bliss and joy, at first it was all just a bright, warm light. And then it started to like settle down and take form. And it felt like I was in a cathedral, maybe with the marble walls and high ceiling or something, but it was still kind of misty looking. And I know that I had looked over to the right and I saw a good size, like an architect's table with a great big huge book, like a huge Bible or something, open about halfway. And I remember somebody telling me what was in that book. And I believe it was my life. And I was only halfway through.
Stairway to Heaven, 25 near-death experiences about encounters with God, Jesus, in paradise. Journalistic research on real cases by A.J. Parr.
This has been the A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.